In our last episode of History Hunters, we explored the town of Genoa, Nevada, which was founded in 1851. Now we're off to explore the graves of those who helped build the town and gained regional notoriety. So we've made our way to the Genoa Cemetery. There's a couple of famous people that are buried here, including Snowshoe Thompson. He was the famous Norwegian who would run mail back and forth between Placerville and Virginia City way back. And there's also a number of people that were very important to the history of Genoa, Nevada here. The first thing that you're greeted by is this stone monument and a smaller piece of what I think might be World War I artillery, as well as the flagpole. So this is one of the graves I was hoping to find. It's the 1901 grave of William Cradlebaugh. The marker indicates he served in the Mexican War of 1846, and you can see he was a member of the Ohio Infantry. Mr. Cradlebaugh was known as the guy who made this elaborate water wheel not too far from here, and it was said that George Ferris saw that idea and he created the Ferris Wheel based on Cradlebaugh's invention. George Ferris came to Carson Valley when he was about 5, and he was later educated in Oakland and New York City. He became a civil engineer. He started out building bridges, but he remembered Cradlebaugh's wheel on a creek near here, and he decided to build Ferris Wheel after it for the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. It cost $400,000. And it was a smashing success. So you might say that Cradlebaugh was the co-inventor of the Ferris wheel, but I guess Ferris wheel sounds better than saying, hey, let's go get on the Cradlebaugh wheel.
It's Matilda Parson. She aced 79 years.
Aged.
Aged? That's it. Looks like a C. My story sounds better. She aced 79 years. That doesn't look like a G.
They made it wrong.
No, oh, it is a G, but look, the C's different.
You still think she aced it?
She must have aced it. She got it 79 years, and when she died in 1881, so living 79 years back then was a long time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So she aced it.
I don't even think it's a dog buried here.
It's not a dog. Usually it would be the man's best friend that's mourning. Haven't you ever seen those? There's like the dog's owner will die, and then they'll go and they'll sleep on their grave or stay on their grave.
This is a very interesting grave.
It's in a hat, but it looks like a little girl hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she was 12 years old. Katie Rowland. You got the little
Katie Rowland Smith
girl boots and the little girl hat. That is really unique. Sometimes it's neat to see creative headstones and gravestones that really show a lot of creativity. There's the grave of Ezra Jarvis. He was the Company D of the 142nd New York Infantry. He's said to be the only Civil War grave here. There's a pig on that grave. If not for this etched stone, we probably wouldn't know anything about Frederick Fritsch, who was born in Germany in 1810 and died in Markleeville in Alpine County in 1876, but we found nothing about him elsewhere. Here's an interesting grave. It's that of Bill Zern, and you are looking at his cause of death. It's said that this stone, etched only with his first name, is actually from the mine cave-in that killed him. He was a miner who was attempting to remove this rock at the entrance of his mine, and it fell and it crushed him to death. A friend tried to help him, but it was in vain. It looks like it's quartz rock, and over here you can see the drill marks into the stone, which was a way of cutting into it to break it loose. We found the grave of Thomas B. Audrain. He died September 16, 1888, at the age of 62. He has a pretty interesting past. He was a native of St. Joseph, Missouri. And after he came out west, he built a way station at Echo Summit, just south of Lake Tahoe in 1860. And when he heard that Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated in 1865, he had remarked something like, "Hooray, they've killed Lincoln. The dirty blank should have been shot long ago." Well, that did not sit well with the Union supporters in town, so they threatened to kill him, but they had a better idea, I guess. They burned his way station down and told him if he ever came back that they'd hang him from the highest tree. Look at how that stone has been cut from the larger block. The interesting thing is that there's a lake near Echo Summit that is named after Thomas Audrain. We found the 1875 grave of David Wally. If David Wally's Hot Springs rings a bell, it's because there's a resort in Genoa. We just passed by it a little while ago. It was founded in 1862. He and his wife Harriet built a resort there at the natural hot springs, and it cost him $100,000 and attracted such famous people as Mark Twain, I've read. In this plot lie members of the Dangberg family. This is H.A. Dangberg, who died in 1884. His wife, Hanne, died in 1913 at age 79. I couldn't find any information on H.A. Dangberg, but he could be the brother of Henry Dangberg of local Dangberg Ranch fame. As an interesting note, Henry Dangberg married Margaret Ferris, the sister of Ferris Wheel inventor George Ferris. But both Henry and Margaret are buried in Carson City. We're trying to find the grave of Snowshoe Thompson, who is buried here somewhere. This is the grave of Edgar Simon. He was a deputy sheriff here, and I understand that he died at the age of 30 years old of appendicitis. So he lived a very short life. So we did find the grave of Snowshoe Thompson. The grave is plainly marked here, and he's buried right over here within this plot in memory of John A. Thompson. I understand that's a misspelled name. Native of Norway, departed this life May 15th, 1876. Age 49 years, 16 days, gone but not forgotten. This marker reads, as a tribute to a great compatriot from Telemark. This plaque was presented by the Norwegian Olympic ski team competing at Squaw Valley in February 1960. And the second plaque reads, dedicated to John A. Snowshoe Thompson, born April 30th, 1827 in 10, now Eitra, Telemark, Norway, died May 15th, 1876, near Woodfords, California. A man made immortal for his unbelievable treks through the most severe storms of the Sierra to bring the mail to pioneers of western Nevada. He was never paid for this hazard service. Wow, that's hard to believe. And back here is another marker. It talks about how on homemade snowshoes he carried mail and supplies over the snowy Sierras for 20 winters. As he traveled, he saved the lives of 7 people who were snowbound in mountain cabins in 1866. After this tall Norwegian became an American citizen, he homesteaded on a 160-acre ranch in Diamond Valley. Respected by all who knew him, John was elected to the Alpine County Board of Supervisors. He was baptized into the Christian faith, and it mentions that he was a part of 2 Wisconsin churches before he made it out to Nevada and California. Though he found no gold, he became legendary as the mailman of the Sierras who brought skiing to the west. In the middle is the son of Snowshoe Thompson, Arthur, who was just 11 years old when he died 2 years after his daddy in 1878. And over here is Agnes's grave. I understand she remarried a man named John Scosa, and he too is buried in this cemetery. And there you see a set of skis similar to the ones worn by John. It's right onto his grave marker back in 1876. I've heard about Snowshoe Thompson for many years, and when I found out that he was buried here in Genoa, I just had to get over here and take a look at his grave. Even though John Thompson was a manly man, a man of great strength and physical endurance, It was a simple case of appendicitis that took him out in 1876. The community really mourned over his loss because he was such a wonderful human being and he really lived out his Christian faith, saving the lives of 7 people in their snowbound cabins. Wow.
I gotta show you something. Actually, 5 somethings. Hopefully when I turn around, they're still there. Come around here. Look at the fence line. Right at the trees.
Oh.
See, there's 3 laying down to your right under that tree.
Okay. Oh.
And then there's 2 in the brush right there.
How close do you get to them?
Oh, wait, there's 6 now. I try not to look at them and I don't get too close because they'll go away. There's 6 of them now. See them? They're all just hanging out.
See if they can take off?
I don't want to make them run.
What if we walk close?
Don't walk close. You don't need to.
Henry Van Sickle, he lived from 1822 to 1894. He owned the Van Sickle Station, approximately 2.5 miles south of Genoa. He was born in New Jersey, and he followed his brother out here to Douglas County, Nevada. He arrived in Carson Valley in 1852, and he took up a claim in 1855. His claim to fame around here was the fact that he shot and killed a really bad guy by the name of Sam Brown, who was also buried in this cemetery in an unmarked grave, I understand. Van Sickle just had enough of this bad guy, and he decided he was going to chase him down and kill him, and he did. Van Sickle kind of became a local folk hero because Sam Brown was such a jerk, terrorized the entire community. In fact, it kind of reminds me of the story of Aurora, Nevada, and William Carter, how he was killed. It was reported in the newspaper that the double-barreled blast at Brown on July 6, 1861, blew everything off Brown's head just above his eyes. 2 days later, a coroner's inquest determined that Brown had come to his death from a dispensation from an all-wise providence. On our return trip to the cemetery the next morning, we saw a young man named Jonathan who was caring for the Van Sickle graves. He was a descendant of Old Henry and said that the tree at the site was an offshoot of a tree planted by Henry himself. I can't say for sure, but this block of stone here could possibly have been a stone that was here in place so that people could stuff off their buggies way back. And you'll see these stones occasionally so that people could, instead of making that long drop down to the ground from their buggy, they would just step on a stone like this. So we found the grave of Daniel Webster Virgin. He was a judge here in Genoa. He was also a judge in Sacramento. He died at the age of 92. This is his grave over here, D.W. Virgin. Born in 1835 and died in 1928. Mary, his wife over here, died December 1st, 1918. She's buried right here. I wonder if she was a victim of the Spanish flu. Their daughter Lillian is the one who invented the famous candy dance over here in Genoa. The pink house that's in Genoa is the site where the candy dance originated. That tradition is going on even to this day. A very cool grave marker there with the planet-like orb on top of it. I understand that those spheres actually represent eternal life or a soul awaiting resurrection. Look at the fencing that we always admire in these old cemeteries, placed there a long time ago. Still here. John James, born in England, 1827, died in 1895. So amid even the historic graves here is this very unusual little picture of Yosemite Valley for an Alfred Weir, fairly recent grave. But you see on top there, it looks like some mountains chiseled out. And there you see Yosemite Valley. Right over there is a wooden angel. This wooden angel is standing guard at the grave of Gerda Canova, who died in 2005. She was born in Austria, and both of her parents were killed during World War II. Looks like this grave of William Carter, 1888, did not fare very well. Split right in the middle. It's not the same William Carter as in Aurora, Nevada. C-A-R-D-E-R. I found the grave of William D. Gray, lived from 1828 to 1910, and that of his wife Annie. I understand he was a blacksmith here in Genoa, early resident. I read that his blacksmith shop was located right about where the restrooms of the Mormon station are today. I wonder how he'd feel about that. Here's the grave of Rufus Adams. He was 22 when he and his family headed by their father Elias, made the trek across the Great Plain to the Salt Lake Valley in Utah, and then they headed out here to Nevada. Rufus actually went over to the Sierra Nevada, but he eventually settled here in the Carson Valley. His brother was John Quincy Adams, who would later settle in the Genoa Valley with his family and Rufus. During the 1860s and 1870s, the Adams brothers owned 400 acres at Genoa and built a second home there. The Adams boy used clay from their Genoa farm to manufacture bricks that were used in the U.S. Mint in Carson City, as well as the state capitol. I want to thank you so much for joining us on this episode of History Hunters, where we explored the Genoa Cemetery dating back to the 1850s. We'd always love to have a comment and also a like, and if you could subscribe to our channel, you would always catch the latest episodes where we feature history throughout the United States. Thanks so much.